afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ageless Movement podcast. I'm your co-host, Scott.
I'm Zane.
And we're bringing you the Ageless Movement podcast number 6 on another very hot Sunday.
But it is September.
Which means the days will get a little shorter and they'll get cooler at night.
It's also self-care month.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were going that way. I'm still talking about weather, and you're talking about our topic today.
Yes. So September is known as self-care month in general. It's just to highlight, what self-care is in general. We should all be doing some self-care throughout the year.
That is true.
But I did find a great calendar for self-care, so that was what prompted all of this. It's a 30-day calendar. Oh, there we go. Something for you to focus on, self-care, every day of the month, a different action item. The reason why I find this one so important is because I have a lot of clients who come in and in general, like when we start up and we start talking about why they're there and what they need to get out of our sessions, I find that a lot of them are so busy. They're either taking care of other people. When they show up, sometimes I think it's nap time.
Yeah, I've experienced that more than once with some people. You got to do something to wake them up, get them going. Depending on the reason why that could be, but I have a fair share. We have a fair share. When we used to have classes, live classes, we always had a husband and wife, and one or the other. One was sick, the other one was the caregiver. And a lot of times the caregiver doesn't really spend enough time on themselves. So I would think that it would be hard for them to continue to give quality care if, they're not taking care of themselves. That's really true. And until you know somebody who has been through that, where you've worked with them or spent any number of time with them, and you realize one person has had, say, a stroke, or is trying to beat cancer for cancer treatment, whatever it may be. Maybe they have a neurological disease, any type of regressive disease. You don't realize the toll it takes on the other person that's providing the caregiving.
Right. And
who's looking out for that person? That's what we often wonder. And especially if it's a case of somebody like a husband or wife that had a stroke, you're talking like a long amount of years of care that person's providing for the other person.
Yeah, and then I come across a lot of they're usually females and women, wives, who are having to take care of their husbands, and their husbands are twice the weight that they are. So they're coming in trying to be strong or work on strength, but at the same time, they've got a lot going on their plate, which makes it hard to be progressive in the strength training when their day-to-day life is just, it's got a lot going on.
Yeah. A lot of aches and pains.
Yeah, I've had somebody where, I don't joke when I say they come in and they think, can we just nap for the next 15 minutes? And it just makes me wonder, are you sleeping at night? Which is one of, I find a lot of, when you go and look up self-care on the internet, I feel like sleep is the one that comes up a lot. Our first podcast was on sleep because it's that important. I just look at it a little bit more differently. It's definitely for self-care, but there's a lot of benefit from really focusing on sleep.
Yeah, and that's the thing that hopefully we got across in the first podcast, that a lot of Dr. DeMint's teachings, he was the one that started the sleep study profession. And, sleep is so much more than rest. It's imperative for brain function, for proper immune system function, for recovery from workouts,
from so many different things, from the mere sense of well-being. Sleep is essential for all of that. And I always know when I'm not feeling well, or I should even say it like this. I always know when I'm stressed because I may not sleep well or have difficulty sleeping. And that's really rare for me to have difficulty sleeping. You know, I don't get quite enough sleep anyway. So when my head hits the pillow, my body knows you better sleep because you got 6 hours till you got to get up, son. So, yeah.
But also, with good sleep, it helps you make better decisions. So then the self-care just kind of comes naturally.
Mm-hmm.
You can make better choices. You have the energy to do the exercise, which is another one that's really good for self-care, is making sure you're regular with your exercise, and or just having some sort of movement throughout your day, just to get the blood flowing and just everything working in your body properly.
So I was just going to say, so self-care is so much more than what we just mentioned, right? Oftentimes it's just finding activities you find fulfilling.
Yeah.
Right? It could mean, I don't know, if you're a painter, taking time to paint. Mm-hmm. If you're a person that makes music, taking time to make music.
Yep. If it helps you relax and clear your head and find focus, that's definitely something that would probably fall in the self-care bucket. Meditation is probably another one. The other thing that I think that I really like to focus on when it comes to self-care is things that help me be self-aware about like what I have going on. So it could be like journaling or writing down a whole bunch of thoughts and, you know, helping myself get organized on priorities. With that, then that helps me. I mean, you'll see on this calendar, if you can pull it up or if you can see it behind us. It's basically, you know, one of those things that a lot of us don't like to do is say no, and that is one of them because that helps with the priorities. So I know for me, I kind of learned how to do that early on just because of the work that I was in and the business I was in. When you work in tech, I mean, there's a ton of projects that everybody wants done, but you've got to prioritize those projects. So, so for me, everything is about basically the risk and the reward that comes into everything that we do and how much time it takes and if it's worth the investment, basically. So that's a good one. I can't remember what day it shows up, but I don't see it right now. But there's a lot of good ones in here, and it's written out day by day so that you can focus on just one thing for that day, I think, which really helps. And then you can take that for every month thereafter. And then basically just on day one, you know, remember that self-care is not selfish, it's essential. And you can go all the way down to 30 days. And I think somewhere in there, there's something about perfectionism, which I think a lot of us in this area probably are, you know, perfectionists just because of what we do out here and being out in the Bay Area. So, you know, kind of gauging like how much perfection needs to be in what we do.
Yes. I can speak a lot about that because I have a father who's a perfectionist. He's a perfectionist in everything. So I learned early on to really focus on the things that matter to be a perfectionist. Even then, sometimes being a perfectionist can be counterproductive because you don't want to be too intense. You want to be able to get in the zone and do what you're trying to do and not be constrained by the possibility of mistakes.
And how does that play out now?
For who? For me?
For him.
For him, it doesn't play out so good because he doesn't understand that. And he's 91 now. For me, it makes a lot of sense. And I learned that observing him.
Yeah, so I never really thought much about self-care. And then I went home to visit my parents, and I want to say my mom might have been in her mid-60s when she was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and then my dad became the caregiver, which really wasn't his thing for me. I mean, he took care of me, but it definitely wasn't at the same level as taking care of somebody who was sick. So it took a very interesting toll. I mean, now you see the effects. I mean, you can see it. You know, he has a little bit of dementia. But when she was alive, like she would eat before he would eat. And so now he's not good at eating.
Yeah, so some of the things, the mindset he had when he was taking care of your mother, he still practices in his life now.
Yeah, except now he really has nobody to take care of, so then it's just idle time, actually.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the effects of just not being able to take care of oneself, is then later on down the line, it's hard to make that happen.
But even more than that, it's not having something else that gives you passion, right?
Right, it's from within and knowing, and that's the thing, if it's self-awareness, then you always know what's going on and you know what you need, which is why I think, like, had he been more aware, like, he would know, oh, you know, I really like current events. I can go learn about current events every day, you know, in our activity room, because he lives in a home now. But he doesn't. Now he couldn't care less what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, at this point, he's definitely not capable of caring for himself, so.
Yeah. See, I think it's important to have a lot of things that you're passionate about. I mean, for me, there's no lack of things that I'm passionate about. I mean, I enjoy making music. I enjoy racing cars. I enjoy, well, there's other passions I have that I haven't been able to do in a while. You know, water skiing. I haven't done that in over a decade. But one day I'm gonna. As soon as I can get my buddy with a boat to get up here. Yeah, so that's the thing, you know, making sure that you're still doing things that you're passionate about. And it doesn't have to be stuff that requires a lot of resources and time. Sometimes it could just be simple little things. Even when I make music, sometimes I only spend about a half an hour here, an hour there. Now, I would love to have 2-3 hours, just work on a beat or something, but I usually don't. So I get something done, or I'm writing lyrics or whatever. Even when the project's done and you're mixing, that takes a very long time. So, you know, it's always 20 minutes here, half hour there.
Yeah.
That's how I have to do it. And then eventually it all comes together.
Yeah, but that's probably enough of a mental break anyway, so it breaks up your projects.
Yeah. Oh, did I tell you I'm into podcasting too?
Is there anything else?
Yeah, I'm thinking of starting another podcast too.
Oh, that's right.
On Stanford football. That would be fun.
Oh, right. Stanford football. That might take some time now.
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. Have passions in your life and pursue them. And don't let other people discourage you from doing things that maybe is outside of other people's perception of you. You know, and what I mean is this. If you're a construction worker, say, right, or you're in the trades, and everyone knows you as the guy who, I don't know, is a glazer, is a concrete layer or whatever, and you like to go to bars after work and drink, and if you want to do something else outside of that seems maybe quite a bit contrasting, don't let other people discourage you from it. Or maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're a techie nerd and you want to get into mixed martial arts and you're not really that physical. Pursue it. Don't let your techie nerds that are out of shape with bad posture talk you out of it.
Yeah, so learning something new is, I find very important. That's kind of one of the things that I always tell myself, especially when we're talking about, I don't even have the numbers, but like I said, my father has very mild dementia. I feel like some of that comes from this part of he was passionate, but he wasn't necessarily at this point trying to seek out certain information, or staying curious, I think, is the other way of.
Yes, challenging your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to keep your brain going, that's a really important aspect, is to pick up new tasks, learn new things, kind of get out of your.
I would agree. Yeah, definitely.
Your norm, just to experience. I mean, I have a friend right now who's taking a lot of art classes, which is also you know, a self-care type thing too. And she's always asking me to take an art class, and I'm like, I can't even draw a stick figure. Not that I don't believe in what, I mean, I definitely should work on that type of stuff, but right at the moment I have so many things to work on, I'm just going to save that one for a later day.
Yes, I understand that. You got to really pick your passions. Stick to your passions, I always say. Because think about it, life is limited. We're only alive for a certain amount of time, and you when your time comes, you want to know that you pursued your life and did everything that you wanted to do.
And were able to try.
Yeah, and not just have simply run out of time.
Yeah.
In fact, that used to be a nightmare for me years ago.
How so?
I used to sometimes dream I would run out of time before doing the things I wanted to do. Yeah.
It's not one you've ever mentioned.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd mention it now.
Okay, well, while we're on the topic I'm mentioning,
Yeah.
another self-care tip could be getting a pet.
Oh, boy.
And I would love a pet. I'm still waiting for my pet.
Still waiting for your pet, huh?
I am. I was told I had to wait until I was home more often.
Well, that's part of the problem. We're always working.
Yes.
And we can't bring a dog with us everywhere we go.
But one day we might be able to.
Yeah, one day we might be able to. True.
But, you know.
Next subject.
Fur baby companionship. That could help a lot with stress.
That's true.
I know I had a rabbit before I moved out here, and she was extremely calming for me. In fact, she helped me find jobs.
She did, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I used to look for a job every weekend. I would sit at my computer. I let her run around the whole apartment, and she would come and poke me and make sure that I was paying attention to her, and then she'd run off. And the good part is she didn't get into trouble, so I didn't mind her running off.
Interesting. So she just ran off in your apartment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought maybe outside or
Oh,
something.
gosh, no. I lived in an apartment.
Okay. Well.
She can't run off anywhere. She'd be gone. And on the second floor.
Oh, okay. That's not good. All right. So what are some other aspects of self-care? We've talked about a lot of the mental and emotional aspects of it, but are there physical aspects of it?
Oh, sure. And so the exercise piece, which is usually like the second thing people think about. Yeah, if you're not physically well, it's going to be hard to provide for others if you're not able to show up every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, taking care of your physical self in some shape or form. So that's another. So the reason why Scott, I think, views self-care differently is because it's so embedded in his life that he doesn't really think much about it. But the whole massage thing is a good self-care. If for Scott, I mean, it is on the calendar. It happens pretty regularly scheduled.
Yeah.
So,
especially when I have an injury I'm nursing.
But even when he's not injured, he is very good at making sure he does the check-in.
Mm-hmm.
I try. I'm a little different. I mean, Scott's schedule, I think he does it more often than I do. I'm somewhere between like once a month to every other month.
I'm like twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got to take care of your body, and that's the thing. Like, we both have said it when we've gone in and we come out of our sessions, like, I didn't know that was a problem. And
yeah, it's the funniest thing. It's like, and if you have, I say, if you have a moderate to severe physical issue, it's like peeling away at all the layers before you get to what the real culprit was.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, like when clients or students come into class, I mean, sometimes it's like, here's a foam roller, like, go roll around and see what you find.
What do you do with people, though, that either don't buy into that or just think it's weird?
Well, I mean, it becomes an education piece at that point. I've tried with a few people to educate them on it, and if it's not in your belief system, it's going to be hard to basically reproduce on your own anyway. So you just keep trying, and I have somebody who literally every time he shows up, the first thing he says to me, I've done nothing all week, I've done nothing since I've seen you, and I've been sitting at my desk all day today. He always tells me the same story, and I tried, and actually I tried with him and his wife. So that's kind of the other thing too, like when we talk about dieting, it's always good, like if your partner is also on board, but when both of you...
Okay, so that's interesting because one of my clients, probably my greatest client.
Yes.
I train her 3 times a week.
Yes.
And she doesn't know, because I train her 3 times a week, I think she sort of takes for granted the time she needs to put into things when she's not meeting with me. So whenever we have a break of 2 weeks or something, she goes on vacation or the air is really bad or whatever it may be, and we get back to working with each other again, it's not uncommon for her to tell me, I haven't done anything at all. And then I notice her hips are tight, she's in pain, she's not moving well. And then, we just go back to basics, and it takes a while to get her back. And when I mean by a while, I mean like 3 workouts or so before she gets back to where she was, where we left off before. And it's interesting, sometimes there's some victories where I actually get her to incorporate something as habit. So for the longest time, I was always telling her, you need to roll your hips, roll your hips. That basically means rolling your glute muscles, your butt muscles. She sits a lot, she's an accountant. Hours and hours a day she's seated. And I used to tell her, can you just get up and walk around every hour, do a few sets of squats, then go back to your desk. Well, I was recently successful in convincing her how important it is to roll her glutes out. And she does that before we actually meet now. When she gets done, she knows she has to get ready for her appointment with me. She spends about 10 minutes or so rolling her glutes out. And I could tell because when I start working with her, she's moving much better.
Yeah, and that's perfect. I know a lot of people who are watching this, actually that whole rolling thing is already part of your process when you work out. So it's great that you guys have that habit. Our current situation, a lot of people actually don't roll out that much. So, for some of you, now we're going to talk about, you probably should also think about like what ways you can progress that. I was going to say also by scheduling all this out, you'll figure out and be able to prioritize what works for you. And for you, like your client might actually need to figure out what self-care needs to be in her life. Mm-hmm. And I mean, now that she's discovered rolling, the other thing like last year I went to the mega conference, we call it. It was like going to Disneyland with a whole bunch of other fitness trainers. It literally was.
Perform better?
No,
oh.
It was actually Perform Better. I mean, that's a lot of like strong people.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got their shake, and there's a lot of muscle everywhere. It wasn't Perform Better. It was the IDEA conference.
Oh, yes.
Which was in Anaheim. So it's in Disneyland, and yeah, you show up and like everybody's a trainer, so there's a ton of energy. Yeah. When you walk into any room, there's a ton of energy. But one of the things I wasn't so big on was the whole like perturbation, vibration, rolling thing. And even though we have a gun at one of the gyms I'm at, I was just kind of like, wasn't my thing.
Well, that's the fascinating thing about it, right? Even in Western medicine now, fascia is being treated.
Yeah, I mean, we have fascial exercises that are, I mean, there's even a fascial conference, and I want to say it's coming up in October or so. But yeah, fascia is definitely one of those things that a lot of people in movement are looking into and figuring out how to incorporate care for fascia. So
okay, that's true, and I think we're going to probably be talking about that more in the future, about how to take care of your fascia.
Yeah.
And fascia is taking care of one's fascia is certainly a part of self-care. But today we were talking about all the things under the guise of self-care.
Yes.
Now, what about some of the things that some people consider self-care that maybe kind of border on maybe not care? So what I'm saying is this: alcohol, drinking, smoking, whatever it may be.
Right.
For a lot of people, their crutches are their self-care. What are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, I was going to say this earlier, and that's why earlier I had mentioned, if you're going to do self-care, hopefully it's something that provides you with awareness about yourself. So, when I had my corporate job, for me, to escape was music, and I think at the time it was a great escape. But now that I think about it, in order to make these events, it definitely cut into my sleep. And then number two, it did lead to me drinking at times. Luckily, I didn't drink so much anyway because I was always the driver, but I still drank at those events. And then next is I would eat at these weird times because I had to make sure the alcohol didn't cause me to go loopy because I didn't have enough to eat, since that was another thing. I was not good at really eating. I was always on the run. So, I mean, if self-care should be something that is beneficial to your mind, your physical self, it helps you provide care for, I mean, for the most part, I think a lot of us are caring for other people, so, or in some shape or form, either at work or at home, or even away. Maybe you're not directly caring for somebody, but you have somebody on the other side of the country.
I would agree. I mean, and even some people, okay, let's be real. Most of the jobs nowadays in America and in the world for that matter are service jobs.
Sure.
You're taking care of people professionally for a living. If you are, even if you're working at a grocery store, that's what you're doing. You're making sure they have an adequate amount of food they want to purchase so they can bring home and eat. If you're a server at a restaurant, right? You're literally taking care of that person in real time. And there's a lot of jobs in the medical field, and they all evolve around caring for people to some degree, right? Yeah. So this is a good thing. I think this is a really, good topic to dive into today, because so many of us are taking care of other people, but we're not taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, and the reason why now is a good time to think about that kind of stuff is self-care
awareness month.
Besides the month that it's
okay.
in, and I that's a whole different topic. I'm not even going to get into that.
Okay.
How these things happen, or like how they are named and what have you. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much what happened with this pandemic for me, was just really trying to figure out how am I going to be able to run my life after this is all done and still not feel like I'm always dragged down because I'm driving to so many locations.
Yeah.
So this is another piece of it, is making sure that I have activities or I have planned care for myself, which over time I've kind of gotten to, especially with my body work stuff. I've gotten really, actually that's gone pretty well. It's not like a spur of the moment thing as much, and I don't feel like I'm just going just because it was on the calendar. Like now it's spaced out pretty nicely. So
that's good.
Yeah.
And things have changed. I think some people have figured out ways of working from home now. And for a lot of people, it's less stressful because they don't have to sit in traffic and stress out. I've always wondered for years, we've had these discussions about if you're working for big companies, why is it you have to come into work? Especially when all these jobs, especially in software engineering, they're very project oriented. The question is, are you productive? Are you getting your projects done on time?
Mm-hmm.
That should be the emphasis, not so much are you at work by such and such time.
Yeah, but that's the other thing is like getting your projects done and getting them done on time. Like the way that happens, I mean, when I did it, it was me basically ignoring what I needed in order to do these projects. The project was, that was it. That had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So like the exercise part for me, out the door. The other thing, which I still do now, and a good self-care thing is I'm kind of the convenience meal eater. So everything is pretty much pre-made for me, and like that's what we do on the weekends is like we make a meal.
We cook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
do a lot of cooking on the weekend.
Yeah, and it helps us make, I think that, well, for me, it helps me make a better choice. Scott's way different than me, so. You and your strawberries and blueberries.
I make good choices.
Yes.
Right? I made the best choice right here.
I'm still working.
That's good.
I did eat my salad today, though.
All
I
right.
do love kale, so that makes it easy.
There you go. So there's the take-home message for you. Try to find out what you need to feel better, to take care of yourself. And keep in mind, it's not always going to be the same exact thing that your partner or your husband or wife wants to do. So maybe you two could figure out how to schedule time for each other.
Right.
So maybe Sang wants to do something on a certain day, I make sure we do it. She makes sure that I'm able to do things I need to do on certain days, even if they're maybe a little bit contrasting in some ways. But it's good because you want your partner happy.
Yeah, so I mean, like that goes to communication. You know, like I think we're both comfortable saying no to one another.
Oh.
Whenever, I mean, there's plenty of things that I want to do that Scott's like, I don't want to do that. So he has no problem saying that. I just have to go deal with it.
What show do you want to watch, Scott? How about this? No. How about that? No. Okay, why don't you suggest it?
If only it were as easy as what's going to be on the television.
Yeah. I think we do good overall.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to add before we conclude things today?
Yeah, so I meant to mention this earlier, and one of my clients is so awesome at this. Like, I always smile whenever she's like, I need to get out more. And she's a software engineer, so whenever she says that, I'm like, good. And, you know, like she's quite aware of what's going on in her life, and she knows that she's being cooped up indoors. And, you know, she's like, I got to get outside. I got to go see the beach. I got to go do this. And she's very good at that. So, yeah, even if it's just take a walk out in your neighborhood or what have you, it's always good to get out and see what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Get some sun and some fresh air on days when it's not.
And even when it's a pandemic and you don't want to be around people, you could still work in your backyard.
Yep.
Or you can go on a hike somewhere where there isn't a lot of people. And even if there is people, just wear your mask, you know, around your neck. If you see somebody you want to talk to, or you find yourself getting a little bit closer than you should with people, wear the mask.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. I actually have a friend who's in this situation where I think being around people is traumatizing.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so, like, just being able to know, like, okay, people aren't going to be out at certain hours,
sure.
So this is when I'm going to take my walk.
Yeah, and again, you can keep your distance and you can bring a mask with you. We can function. It's definitely manageable.
It is. But it is good to get out, even though it's a pandemic.
Yeah, you need to get out, okay? All right, anything else you want to add?
I think that was everything.
Yeah, I pretty much said everything I needed to say. That's great. All right, everyone, please, if you have not done it already, please like and subscribe to our channel. Subscribing helps build the channel to a wider audience. That's what we're trying to do here. And we also, we enjoy helping people make smart decisions and live healthier, more productive lives. All right? Okay, everyone, have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you soon. Take care.